Newspoll just dropped via the Australian newspaper. More detail with Simon Benson in the morning and on the front page. 51-49 in favour of the coalition remains two-party preferred. Primary vote, coalition at 38. Remember, if it's got a 4 in front of it, they're very close, if not quote-unquote guaranteed to win. Labor down 31%. That's a couple of points off from where they were at the 22 election. 38 is well and truly up for the Libs. 12% for the Greens. 7% for One Nation. One Nation, by the way, in some of that marginal seat polling, even stronger than that. So I'd imagine the assumption about preferences is going to be part of why they make the conclusions they do about Peter Dutton. The number that is really interesting to me, 34% of people say it's time to re-elect the government. 53% say it's time for a change. Now, obviously, that includes Greens, that includes One Nation, that includes Libs, right? But the fact that the people who want to back in the current mob doesn't even crack 40, there we go. James, your thoughts, obviously, from a One Nation perspective. There was even better polling around this weekend.
Yeah, look, YouGov has certainly come out, and I was absolutely flabbergasted. Over 40,000 people surveyed to get the results they did, and this just backs that up again. Look, it's encouraging for One Nation, and particularly for those people at home that may be sort of thinking, oh, do we give One Nation a vote or not here? It's super important in the Senate, because Peter Dutton may win government in his own right in the lower house, but unless we see a change of dynamics in the Senate, you are going to see the Greens govern with Labor, the upper house, and that will destroy Peter Dutton. In actual fact, it wouldn't surprise me if it was a cause for another double dissolution within 12 months of that government taking place. So it's important that we get a re-evaluation of the Senate. The only way you're going to get that is voting for other like-minded Conservative parties that will work with the coalition if they're to win government and support good legislation, but also too, you know, we're not afraid to say to the coalition, hey, we don't support that. Go back, amend it. We'll help you amend it to pass it. And that's the logical thing to do. We've proven over 2 terms of government with the coalition that we can do it, and I'd encourage people to vote One Nation in the Senate in particular. And
I always say about your Senate vote, which is that your Senate vote is the insurance that you take out against the governing party, right? Sure. So if you want somebody who's going to be a little closer, a little more pure in your philosophy, then you give them the power upstairs, and you let people, and then you give the preference downstairs, because that's where it ends up forming a government. But Linda, your thoughts on this? What's stubborn? What's not? Your thoughts on, again, we are a ways out. There is no election tomorrow, but I was reading, I think it was Bob McMullen, who was a former Labor senator, in one of the websites over the weekend, talking about, oh, well, if you do this and do that and 3 months out and no one knows. He's got to have it by May, right? So he's got to announce it in March, or he may announce it towards the end of February. But we're basically on top of an election now, and I don't know whether these numbers are going to move dramatically in the next few weeks, but Albo needs them to.
Look, Labor won the last election on a primary vote that had a 3 in front of it. And I've always said for many months now on this show that Labor, I think, will go into this election as the underdog. Of course, they've only been in government for 1 term, and so many of the things that James and even Peter Dutton lament about actually were policies of the coalition government. But nevertheless, this is going to be a hard election for Labor. I do want to say on the minor party issue, it was interesting to me actually that Joe Hockey, of course, the former Liberal Treasurer, came out last week and said that he would prefer Labor to be in government than there be a vote for a minor party, you know, like the Teals, to form government with one of the major parties. So I do think that's interesting that even the Liberals are saying don't vote for minor parties. They're dangerous and they can create these really unpredictable
they're happy to see us get in.
Yeah, well,
I didn't hear Joe Hockey say that.
No, and look, I love Joe, but he's also free to say that because his seat of North Sydney doesn't exist anymore.
And can I also just say the Mayor of Temora, Rick Furman, has just texted me, mate, I'm okay. Thank you for your lovely, kind words. I love hearing from Australia. And I want to say it's delightful to have you all tuned in tonight.
Give me 30 seconds on this one, James.
Oh, is that your milk friend who reckons he paid $25?
No. I've got more than one friend, James. I know that's hard to believe.
All right. Now, Linda, I do want to get to bold predictions, but you're about to head off to the United States with a whole bunch of other people in and around the superannuation industry, and you're sitting on some of those boards.
Yeah, look, I think it is important in the global context where there's been this, discussion with President Trump about the introduction of tariffs, that superannuation funds across Australia are going to go to the US next week to hold talks with the new administration and, of course, have a look at investment prospects for Australians and their retirement funds. We invest globally. Much of Australia's pension funds are doing this all across the world. But I think it is important to see our superannuation sector engaging with the Trump administration. We're obviously working with the Australian ambassador in the US.
Yes.
And this is a really important thing for the superannuation funds to be doing in our members' interest, but also in the national interest.
I know Karen says he can get you in. I'm just going to say, if you want the photo of me and Trump in the Oval Office, if that's going to help,
here,
you can take it. I'll give it to you.
So
you can give it away. Yeah, all right. Thank you, James. Thank you, Linda. We'll do the prediction thing again when I've got more time next week.